good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when or wherever you may be. I decided to make this video after watching a couple of news in Portuguese news, in Euro news, in German news, even in Midas Touch, for example, about Trump's visit to China and how ridiculous it was. I mean, Trump could have could have not looked weaker if he tried. He looked like a dying dictator from some kind of bananas republic. It looked like he could barely move. It looked like he could barely speak. He was completely dominated by Xi, by the Chinese. He was just weak, is the correct word. And I don't really think that most Americans realize how the rest of the world is watching this. Okay, we saw all of the tech oligarchs and money oligarchs of the United States going with the president, and while for the Americans this means the USA is investing and it's gaining momentum, and they are going to invest in China. China is going to invest hard in the USA. Uh, I think you all, and this is why I'm making this video, okay? I think you all fail to understand what is really happening. And what is really happening is the hegemon of the world that is losing his power has come to pay his respects to the new hegemon of the world. And I don't know if the new hegemon will be better, worse, or the same as the previous one. But one thing is for sure, the USA is leaving. And we in Europe, we better get our shit together. We really need to get our shit together, okay? We need to progress as quickly as possible towards a union of political wills to protect ourselves and our way of life. It's as simple as that. Okay, but whatever happens, uh, we have to understand that in the next decades, China will be the main player, the one that you cannot fuck with. They won this war without shooting a single bullet. They won this war against the United States, in this case, just by being patient. They saw the signs of decay, okay, and look, China has lots of issues too, okay. let's not try to transform this in some kind of golden victory where everything is perfect. It's not perfect, okay. And this is why China is trying to create a situation of equality with the middle powers, because China knows perfectly well that they cannot do the same thing that the United States did and become the police of the world, because they know that does not work. They know that only through influence, bribery, and sometimes even threat things work. But if you try to do what the United States did, which was first they blackmailed entire areas of the world, like Europe, like Japan, like South Korea, like all of its former allies. If you try to go that route, it won't last very long. Okay, and then China is going to end up having the same issues as it had before. And more than that, I think Xi is perfectly aware that the political system in China is going to need to change in the future. I'm not saying it will transform into something similar to a Western, so to speak, democracy, but it will change because the new generations are going to demand it. And he knows, like everyone knows, that you can only go so far in pushing people. One day, 2 days, who knows? But dictatorships always fall. They always fall. Okay, and dictators also always, sorry, make the cardinal sin of believing themselves superior to others. This is a fundamental truth of life, and I think they know it. Okay, and look, I'm not putting China in a gold pedestal. I'm not saying that they won't commit mistakes, that they have not committed mistakes. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying they committed less mistakes than the Americans. I don't, you Americans, I don't know how many of you have the true conscience of what you just did by electing Donald J. Trump as your president. Because you are just seeing different aspects of how his presidency has affected you, affected the world, and affected the system that existed. But the first thing we have to talk about is this system was not designed to exist for this long. Okay? NATO, the US as the police of the world, all of this. This was not something that was designed to last this long. But the issue here is that the hegemon, the USA, it got hooked on the power and on the money. Europe was disarmed after World War II. Couple of countries rearmed quickly, like for example France. Some did not even disarm. I would quote Portugal and Spain because of our political realities. The Russians did the same, and I will call them the Russians. I don't call, if you want to call them Soviets, the Russians did the same thing in Eastern Europe, and then some countries rearmed quickly, like for example Yugoslavia, that after the Balkans War, they separated themselves and went their separate separate ways because it was an artificial construction. Yugoslavia was the last remnant of the Austro-Hungarian situation in World War One. Okay, let's be honest about it. Let's call it as it is. It was a way of keeping the heritage of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and of the Ottoman Empire in Europe, to keep that amalgam. How would I say this? To keep that pot with so many different elements more or less in peace. And when people talk about the Balkans War, they like to blame the Serbians, but I don't like to blame the Serbians. But if there's any Serbian listening to me, don't think for a moment that I would think that. I think the Balkans War had a lot of actors, a lot of nasty characters in both sides. The Serbians had nasty characters. The the Croatians, they had nasty characters. The Bosnian had nasty characters. There was always a lot of bad blood between different cultural or ethnic groups, whatever you want to call them. And I also don't agree with the way, and I've spoken about this in other videos. I also do not agree with the way that the Kosovo War ended. But also, in one hand, I understand the wishes of the people of Kosovo. But in the other, I also understand the wishes of the Serbian people that live in Kosovo. And more than that, the historic meaning of Kosovo for Serbia. I understand all of that. But in this conflict, like in others, I will say this: I'm on the side of the civilians. I'm not on the side of the governments. I am on the side of the people that live there, that have to live there, that call that place their land, and that want peace and quiet. And ironically, I would say this: Kosovo and Serbia, sorry, in Portuguese it's Serbia, okay, sorry. Uh, so I might drift a bit into Portuguese, especially at this hour that I'm a bit tired, but I decided to make this little rant. I think that if Serbia and Kosovo were a part of the EU, it would really help a lot in healing these wounds. And look, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything is roses and then and butterflies, and that there won't be issues, that there won't be problems. But I think the great gift the EU gives us is this: is giving us a way out of our historical issues. Water, Vasa. The EU gives us a way of solving our historical issues with a bit of peace. It has done that to Portugal and Spain, for example, and we have a lot of historical beefs. It has done the same in France, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, all over the EU. Okay, and it was also serving as a kind of a glue for the United Kingdom until the corrupt paid Brexit, by that to this day is still being led in different forms by Mr. Farage and his entourage of corrupt, I would call them oligarchs. Okay, the people that are funding him. I don't, either if they are Americans or Russians. I really don't care, to be honest. I know that he has been indicted allegedly allegedly, I will have to say this allegedly, because unlike reform, uh, I don't talk about certainties before they are trialed and the judge passes his sentence. So I would say allegedly it was written in several reports that Mr. Farage was in the top tier of recipients of Russian funds in Western Europe. Okay? There are also people from here, from my country, from Spain, from Germany, from the Netherlands. You just have to go to Germany and see that, for example, Olaf Schroeder, the former chancellor, okay, he was receiving money from Russia, okay. I think I don't know. I'm not sure if he was really convicted in court. I would have to Google it. But as you know, when I do these rants, I do them in pronto, and I'm not using the Google to Google that, oh, whatever, or my other search engine, and interrupt my reasoning. But a lot of European politicians were caught receiving money from Russia. The key issue here is that in continental Europe, it's easier to do it than in places like the United Kingdom, where parties can legally receive donations. I would call them bribes, because in Europe, no. In Europe, I don't really know in which countries in Europe this type of donation system is even allowed. In my country, I know it's not allowed. In Spain, I also know it's not allowed. Uh, Work in a party is usually volunteer, meaning if you are a member of a party and you need to do any kind of work for that party, for the elections or whatever, you do it voluntarily. You have, however, an exemption from work from the government. So if you are working, you can ask for an amount of days for campaign activities, and if you go into politics, you can suspend the work that you were doing or whatever. You understand what I'm trying to tell? And a party can say clearly that they support this or that movement. Okay, we have clearly left-wing parties here in Portugal. We also have clearly right-wing parties, not extreme right-wing, as I explained in another video talking about the political system here in my country. But the donations, same as I was saying, is much easier to detect in Europe because of the way that we surveil politicians, their associations, the requirements for them to do their job. Okay, you would never have a multimillionaire like Richie Sunak acting as a prime minister here, because prime ministers here, or any person that enters into active political service, or even in some high echelons of the state itself, when you enter into those types of public jobs, you cannot do other things. Meaning, you cannot have companies, you cannot have anything of that. Okay, if perhaps you have a position in a company, you can either suspend your mandate or sell your stock, or you understand what I'm trying to tell you. I think I have also explained this in another video. Suffice to say that a prime minister here is a prime minister. Okay, deputy of our Republican Parliament is a deputy of the Republican Parliament. Okay, they receive a salary and they cannot have any kind of other side activities except things like, for example, I don't know, write a book or be a teacher. Those types of things are allowed. Okay, but other than that, no. Okay, and why is that? so that there isn't the contamination that you see in the United Kingdom, for example. It's very sad to see it. When you have different groups, for example, this entire issue with, for example, Andy Berman and Keir Starmer and a lot of politicians in the United Kingdom, especially also in the Conservatives, that are being paid by Israel, literally, and also by the Americans, okay, to have policies that will benefit those people, those groups, to, for example, continue to give support to Israel in its war of expansion in the Middle East, or then you have some others that might be pro-American or whatever. Look, just in the last council elections or whatever, how they call them, for the local councils, you saw that clearly with the massive money support behind reform. Okay, you saw it. It was clear as day. But unfortunately, media in the United Kingdom is also dominated by lobbies. I once said, kidding, but with a back of truth, I think. Bottom. How can I say this? I said it as a joke, but it had some truth in it. Okay, and I said once that the United Kingdom barely has any media. It does have, however, a lot of mouthpieces for different lobby groups. Okay, and that is what I meant. Because if you look, I'm not saying that there are not honest reporters in the United Kingdom. Okay, far from it. There are honest people trying to do honest works. I also don't think the BBC is that bad. But I know, however, that a lot of news media in Europe, I'm talking, for example, here in my country, in Portugal, they stopped using the BBC as a source of information because they discovered that the information that was being transmitted by the BBC was not accurate. What do I mean by this? I don't mean that they were lying. I don't mean that they were not being true. Sorry, but they were choosing the type of information that they gave. And when you start to choose information, it stops being information and it starts to be uh, the exterior will of someone, some group. No, I explained that in that video when I talked about misinformation and fake news and the difference of approach in Europe and in the United States, for example. But I will give a brief example here, just that we are all clear on it. I talked about an hypothetical situation in which a blue car hit a yellow car. Okay, and I was telling that, for example, here in Portugal or in Germany or in France or in Spain, in the EU in general, in these countries, all of these countries in the EU that share a similar way, a similar approach to what reporting the news and information is, you would have something like this. Uh, a yellow car was, a blue car, sorry, was driving at X speed and it hit a yellow car. Okay, the blue car hit the yellow car. And then you would have, for example, the opinion of the reporter. The reporter could say something like this: uh, "Yellow, sorry, blue cars are remarkably suspicious of hitting several yellow cars. This is not the first thing that it happened. It might be related to that." And then you would have another opinion of another reporter that would tell you something like this: yellow cars are known for driving too slow in the road and causing blue cars to hit them. But the fact is this: I would watch the same effects that a yellow car had hit a blue car. I would They would show the pictures or the videos or whatever, and in the end of all of that, I would know that a blue car hit a yellow car. And now I could agree with the opinion of the people of the journalists that were saying that the problem might be with the yellow car, or the other ones that said the issues might be with the blue car. But I would get the facts. I would not get narratives. And in countries like, for example, the United States, you don't get that. You get an entire, for example, if they are supporting the blue cars, they will go through an entire justification. They will say something like, the poor blue car was going down the road just minding its own business when suddenly, out of the blue, a yellow car was stopped just right in front of him. And as the blue car tried to avoid the inevitable clash, the yellow car stood and blocked the path, causing the blue car to hit the yellow car. Okay? Or you would hear, for example, the poor yellow car was just standing in the road, driving slowly, minding its own business, taking care of his children, when the evil, democratic blue car came in all of its wokeness and hit violently, viciously the yellow car. This is verbatim the type of news you get in the United States. Mostly, okay? Because I'm not going to say that 100% all of the news reporting is this type. The difference here is that you got a narrative. You didn't get the facts. I, in listening to my type of news, I got the facts. And now, explaining why I'm going back to this again, let me just have a sip of water. This is exactly what you are getting with Mr. Trump. He's not giving you the facts. He's giving you narratives. He is not telling you, for example, that by going to war with Iran, for whatever reasons, with Israel, for whatever reasons, we're not discussing the reasons here. I have made videos about that. I will make more videos about that if it's needed. Okay? For whatever reasons, that he calls that war, he took the decision. Okay? He started the bombing. He started the attacks in the Gulf, in the Hormuz Strait, even though his entire staff, I'm sure, and everyone in the White House told him that if he did this, the first thing that the Iranians would do would be to block the Hormuz Straits. Okay, it has been in look. If even I, a mere civilian right here in Europe, knew that in case of any conflict with Iran, they would block the Straits of Hormuz, I'm pretty sure that the president and his entire staff knew this. And of course, they also knew it was impossible to make sure that the straits were secure. Even if he had been able to drag his allies, I would call him hostages, into this mess. Even if he did that, sorry, it would be impossible. Because look, all it takes is a lonely drone to hit a ship in the middle of the Hormuz Strait for the insurance companies not to pay for any kind of, not to insure any boat circulating in that stretch of water. A quick boat with enough C4 in it to hit the ship and blow it up. It's very simple to stop a trade route because trade depends on trust. The trust that you can use that trade route and not be subjected to to not being able to make your profit. This is what we are talking here, profit. But Trump told you that fear not, we have oil, we have gas, and we can afford this war. Other countries cannot. They are going to come here and beg for our oil. And no, no one came and begged for your oil. You are selling half of Europe's oil and gas at least. So we are buying it still, but more expensive because we still have not been able to get rid of it. But subject for another video, but that is coming and very fast. But as I was saying, he didn't tell you that the oil market in the world, when something happens to the oil market, it doesn't matter if you produce your own oil and you refine it. Okay, you could have an oil well in your back garden and refine your gasoline to the market, and if the price rises in your neighbor's backyard, it's also going to rise the price in your backyard because it's a global asset. There are some goods, some assets, let's call it like this, that are global. Examples: oil, gas, rare earths, okay, minerals, wheat, food, okay, gold, silver. These are all global markets. This means global goods. This means everyone wants it or everyone uses them. Everyone needs, in this moment still, fuel for their cars, for their agriculture production. They need fertilizers. Some of those fertilizers need oil or need transport. Okay, everyone needs to transport food from one side to the other. Sorry, even at the local level, everyone needs energy for producing food, for producing goods. Okay, for purifying water, all of it. Okay, so you could be sitting, and you are not. Let me just be clear about that. But you could be sitting in a oil reserve that would be enough for your country to survive alone for 50 years, and it would still be more expensive to you Americans at the gas station to pay for that gas, because your president does not control the global price of oil, and he can never control that price, even with the petrodollar. Even with that, he does not control it. He does not control the fact that you can try to force Europe, for example, to buy your shit, and we won't buy it, and he cannot do anything about it. I'm going to tariff you. Okay, then your citizens are going to pay more for the goods, or your citizens can't or won't buy the goods. Okay, we'll sell them. We'll sell them to other places. Just like China did with you with the soybeans. Or you're going to tariff the soybeans that we buy from you. You are going to try to force us to pay more to buy your soybeans. Okay. Hey Brazil, you have a lot of soybeans to sell, haven't you? Claro, meu amigo. China went to South America to buy its soybeans. Do you see how these things work? tariffs don't work. Tariffs work, for example, if you have, we imagine this, you want to protect your beef, your national beef. So you put a tariff on foreign beef, so that foreign beef that enters in your market will not be cheaper than your homegrown beef, and your farmers can sell that beef. This is a situation when you put a tariff. Double this on any other good. And it's a perfectly acceptable uh, market decision, market defense, market control. The EU has tariffs on some goods, on electric cars from China, for example. China has tariffs on specific EU goods. It's normal. Okay, it's not something that is that unusual. It's a valid method of protecting certain areas of your economy. No, and I've spoken often about this, but I'm speaking about it again because I think it's useful sometimes to remember things. And what did your president did? He put blank tariffs on everything, even an island solely populated by penguins and seals and other critters. He devised these magical ideas of trade deficits that did not exist because the US economy uh, relocated a lot of its production and integrated a lot of other countries' production into their own economy. Have you seen why how much you are suffering because Canada is leaving the integration with your market? Have you watched the news? Have you seen how much you are losing? Because of the tariffs. And of course, because of other things, because of the insults to Canadians, the threats to Canadians, the despicable behavior of the American government and and a lot of American people. Sorry, okay, it was not Trump that screamed at Canadians in the road, like the videos that we saw right here in Europe. I saw it in the evening news. It was American citizens that did that. Probably the same that voted for him, that liked this, that it's so good. And you are also seeing it in your military complex. Trump does not have enough rare earths that he buys from China to make in to sorry to renew his stockpile of missiles and ammunitions. The USA is not even the largest producer of ammunitions in the world. You want to know who is the largest producer of ammunitions in this moment? Germany. The same Germany that is rearming at, and I'm half German, so I can say this, at a very Germanic and Prussian rhythm that you cannot match. If Germany decides to build 1 million drones in a week, they will build the bloody 1 million drones in a week. This is how things work. And we are doing that here in Europe. We are rearming, and the more lunatic the White House becomes, the quicker we rearm. And look, in my opinion, it's good. It's also good that different countries in Europe start to realize that we need to be united to defend ourselves. We can hate each other in the background, okay? We can still, no worries. We can still hate each other in the background, okay? We can still call each other names and bask in our historical differences and scream at each other and all that. We can do that. But outside our playground, outside our neighborhood, we have to stick together like glue. And this is the only way to the future. And speaking very candidly, sorry, with you that are surviving my rant, sorry, I will tell you this. This will happen. This political union, call it whatever you want to call it, alignment. This will happen. You want to know why? Because it has to happen. It has to happen. It's the only way of things evolving. Whatever happens, we will fall into the same form. And change, well, change is inevitable. The US is gone, someone else will take its place, or no one will take its place. And by the way, China is behaving, I think China does not want to be the police of the world. They might want to be the tradesmen of the world, but they don't want to be the police of the world because it's not profitable to be the police. It's better to just be the tradesman, the guy that pays the bills, and that when someone starts sneaking out of a form, he can say, "Hey, my friend, I'm paying the bills in this shit. Okay, so go back to your business and stop that." This is basically how it works, and it will be a world with a lot of other issues. But look, I don't use the expression I have faith that this will happen or whatever. You know, I have a logic deduction, okay, a logic idea, a logic process, thought process that things will get better. Not better in perhaps in the sense that we see it as better. But I think all of this American lunacy, all of these issues, all of these wars, look, these things are going to solve, get solved, one way or another. It's already happening. And let me see if I'm right in saying that after this little visit to China, this war in Iran is going to end. I think the war in Iran is going to end. Let's see if I'm right. If I'm not right, well, then you can say, I told you so. You are not right. And it's all good. Okay. Now, folks, I just wanted to get this out of my chest and talk a bit with you. Drop this video still today. I hope that you are all good. If you are an American, I hope that you are safe and that you at least have a roof over your head, food to eat, that you and your family are good. The same thing that I wish to anyone: food, shelter, and some comfort. What else can we hope for this world anyway? And as for the channel, again, I'm going to try to drop more contents, more videos, and I'm also going to try to make some streams this weekend. Maybe more than one, but at least one Saturday in the afternoon at around the same hours that I have been doing the other ones. I will post and announce it at least an hour or two before I make the stream. I'm going to have a stream, maybe to watch a couple of news videos or something else, or to just talk, whatever. But I'm going to make the streams because I have seen that the streams help me develop my reasoning a bit more. So, folks, thank you very much for listening to me, to bear with me with my rants. I know I drift into different directions a lot. That might be a bit irritating for some people. And I just hope to catch you all in the next one. Okay? Now, folks, have a great evening. At least for me, it's evening. And I hope to catch you all in the next one.